Alright Bashers, here we are again with another unboxing, and this one is going to be pretty cool. If you saw the last video, you saw us do the other Grom that we have here, and it was the Typhon, and this one rated surprisingly high for what it is. What we're amazed with these things is the detail that they incorporate into them, that they bring down from the larger cars. This is really amazing. They can make them look this good. It is really a small version of the 3S car, which is very cool. In this video, we've got the Mojave, and we have both iterations of those. We've got the 6S and the 4S, and they're right back there on the shelf, and we love both of them. They're fun to play with. They're super fast. This is the Grom version, and it's small scale, and that's really cool. As always, this is not a sponsored video. This is just what we think is cool and picked up at the hobby store. In this video, we're going to get this one out of the box. We're going to see what you get. And since we already did the Typhon, we're pretty much up to speed on what's going to come in there. But we'll show you what you get. We'll show you the cool stuff about it. Then we're going to take it out and test it. As usual, we're going to run it hard, and then we're going to bring it back in, and we're going to go over what broke, if anything, and what we think of it. Then we're going to ask our 4 questions. And if you watch the channel, you know what they are. Is it fun? Is it durable? Is it worth the money? And what's the total points here at the channel? I'm excited for this one. I love the Mojave series. Check this out. All right, so let's get this thing out of the box. That's pretty cool. Is it loose? Oh, it's not. Okay. There we go. And there's our gear. So there it is. Let's have a look at that. That looks pretty cool. How's it attached here? And I see a couple of zip ties right here. Okay, since we got it out of the box, it looks pretty cool. I mean, the detail in this is really nice. It looks just like the bigger ones, which you'd expect. It's really well done as far as the detail goes. You've got the drivers on the inside. The tail looks the same. Everything looks the same as the big one. Has the Fortress tires on it. And it does have one little trick that's really cool right here. And they showed me this at the hobby store on another one. Is there's a button on either side. And the way that works is you push the buttons and the body comes right off. Take a look at this. That is a pretty cool apparatus in there, and these 2 buttons release these 4 pins, and these holes appear to be oversized a little bit, so you shouldn't have problems with them binding up the way we did on some of the other vehicles. This is really rigid in here. This body looks really well supported, and it feels pretty stable, and that support goes clear through the roof racks here, so that's pretty bitchin' right there. I like that a lot. As far as the inside of the car goes, it's pretty much the same as the Typhon, and if you haven't seen that one yet, it comes with a 1400 milliamp 30C LiPo battery. This is a 2S version here, and the 1400 runs for a while, at least on the Typhon it did. This is a brushed system, so it does have a brushed motor here. It has a cooling fan right in front of it, and then it has a combo unit. And this combo unit is the speed control and the receiver, so this is an all-in-one system. And right below that is the servo. And everything seems to be pretty normal as far as that goes. This is supposed to have the upgraded diffs in it. I don't know much about that yet. We'll find out in the long run. But this is also connected to the SLT2 radio system. And the one for the Typhon worked really well. It feels a little awkward in the hand for me, but I have big hands, but I'm beginning to get used to them. It does have some pretty decent controls, and it does have the cut down for your power here. It does have the reversing for your steering here, so if it's turning the wrong way, you can flip that switch and get it to turn the right direction. And then your basic controls on the front for tuning things and getting it to drive nice and straight. This does have a pretty good range. I never had a problem with that. It is a decent radio, so that works. And then, of course, you get your standard packet here. And we're not going to break this one open this time. I'm going to tell you what's in here. But basically, the manual itself has all of the numbers that you'll need. It has all the stuff you'll have to have for setup on the car and maintenance and all that. It's in here. And don't lose this stuff, guys. This right here has all your part numbers and all of that stuff. And if you need to buy parts, you'll need those. It also has batteries for the transmitter. It has... right here, it has a charger for the battery. You plug this into a USB and have a powerful USB that you plug into, because we used a standard one and it warmed up pretty good. It didn't overheat, but it did build a little temperature in the USB charger that plugs the unit that plugs into the wall. So I wouldn't plug it in and leave it unattended for any length of time. Monitor your heats just to make sure it's safe. And then it's got a basic toolkit right there. So that's what you get with it. So that's what you get in the box. And for just about $140, you get everything you need to run. And that's pretty cool as far as that goes. Now, there's only one thing left to do. Let's take it out and test it. This should be fun. Check this out. All right, so there's the running footage for the Mojave Grom, and I really don't know what to say about this one. It was fun in the right circumstances, but it didn't hold up the way I was hoping it would. Durability-wise, it did perfectly. There was no damage. Everything worked. The radio worked properly. The range was good on it. The way it reacted, that was all very good. This handled pretty good overall. But in the rougher stuff, the way the Typhon handled was way different from the way this one handles. And we understand the Typhon Grom has larger tires on it. The tread pattern's a little bit different, so that might have a little something to do with it. It probably has a little ground clearance different as well because of the size of the tires. But this one didn't do very good in the rough areas. And what I mean by that is when you get out in nature, which we like to run in nature here, and we run everything that we run in nature most of the time, this one didn't do very well in that at all. It was sketchy. You couldn't get full pin on it. It would always try and turn around on you. It just didn't handle that area very well. But when we get into the different areas, as far as something a bit more groomed, even though it had some roughness, it still ran really well in that situation. And although you didn't get to see it on the video, we ran it on pavement too. And I really wish we'd have recorded that, because at the time we had battery issues and the cameras just weren't up and running, but we still wanted to play with it. So we took it out and ran it, and it really shined on the pavement. It was controllable, it was fast, it was fun to hook around. It was just a lot more fun on the pavement. So if you've got driveway or something like that, this really shines in that capacity. It also does pretty good on fairly groomed ground, nothing with rolly rocks in it. You know, if it's just signed, well, let's look at it this way. If you have something like baseball diamond clay or sand that's smooth and packed, it does really well on that also, but it doesn't do well in anything that's got some aggressive tendencies to it. That is definitely for bigger cars, and we do understand this is entry level, and you get a lot for your money with this thing. It was just a little disappointing that we couldn't take it to where we normally run. So let's get into the particulars about this thing. And what it comes down to is the running gear is pretty good for what it is. I'm really curious to see how these kind of cars are going to handle with a brushless system in them. This one did develop a little bit of heat, but not quite as bad as the Typhon. We didn't put the gun on it, but when you do the touch test on it, this did get pretty warm, and I'm glad there's a fan in there. We didn't have any problems with the steering. The steering worked okay. We didn't have any problems with the radio. We mentioned that. The motor worked out just fine, and the gearing sounded pretty normal from our perspective. And keep in mind, we only tell you what we get with the car that's in front of us. We don't watch YouTube channels as far as do a bunch of research to find out about how other people are having problems with their cars. We only tell you what happens with ours, and you get to see how hard we run them. We run them pretty hard overall, which is our norm here at the channel. And this one, I love the look of this. I really do. I think this is a very cool little car. And it's just like its larger brothers. We got the 4S and the 6S here, and they are both very cool. And the bigger ones are literally guided missiles. You can just pull the trigger and they are scary fast. They handle good. They've got good suspension. And this one fits into that category, but this is definitely the entry level of it. And if you want the look of it, this one does do that, and it gives you that look when you're on pavement. It does really shine. As far as that goes, we ran it on pavement for quite a while, and the tires held up beautifully. We haven't rotated any of the tires or anything on it. Everything is really nice still, lots of tread still on them. They do feel a little bit stiff as far as that goes, and that might have something to do with how it handled. You might be able to upgrade the tires on it and make it handle a little better in the rougher conditions, but as it stands, this worked really well on pavement. That was my favorite place to play with it. Getting it out in the dirt was one thing, and when you're in a groomed area, it was a lot of fun to play with there too, but it was still a little bit sketchy. One nice thing about this one over the Typhon, if you want to look at it that way, is this one has the short course body on it, and that's a style. You can call it short course or whatever you want to call it, but that's the style of body that's on it. And when you roll it, most of the time it comes back on its wheels. It will stand on its side, and you can turn the wheels into the ground and get it back on its wheels, which is a neat thing. The Typhon, there was a lot more walking involved with that because it would flip over on the wing and it'd just stay there. There was nothing you could do. You were walking, and that's how that one works. So as far as that car goes, it was a bit of a drawback for that. This one, most of the time it landed back on its wheels. All right, that being said, it's time to ask our 4 questions. And if you watch the channel, you know what they are. Is it fun? Is it durable? Is it worth the money? And what's the total points here at the channel? So let's start with question 1. Is it fun? Well, this one is fun. In the right situations, it is a blast. And I really understand that if you're new to the hobby, this one's plenty quick for where it's designed to be run. And it really is pretty fun that way. But overall, where we run things, and I know this is definitely our perspective here, because you're going to run in different positions or situations than we will. We're just telling you what we experienced with ours. And the fun, we went out to the first location, wasn't fun at all because it was really hard to control. It wasn't very fun as far as that goes. So that's going to take a couple of points off right there. Second situation, we went out and we had some more groom stuff, but at the same time, it doesn't take a whole lot to stop this car. If you get in anywhere where the chassis hits the ground, it just spins the tires. So we're going to take a point off for that too. But once you get out in the areas where there's nothing in the way and it's groomed, like a driveway or smooth, if you run in those situations, it was an utter blast to play with. Once you get the traction to hook up, and we were running it on all 3 settings, 50, 75, and 100%. And really for us, 100% is where it's at. Just learn to pedal the throttle a little bit, and it's controllable. For that reason alone, between where we came with all 3 locations that we ran, we're going to give this one 7 out of 10 for fun. And durability, question number 2. Is this thing durable? Yes, it's durable. We ran it hard, we tumbled, we cartwheeled, we hit all kinds of stuff with it, and we broke nothing. Keep in mind, this is a really small car. It is fast, but with the way they build things nowadays, with that kind of weight, you'd have to hit something really solid to break it. At least that's the experience we've had with this one so far. Since we broke nothing and we ran it full tilt for many batteries, we're going to give this one 10 out of 10 for durability in the entry-level class, because that's what it is. 10 out of 10 for durability. And question number 3, is it worth the money? Well, for $140 right in that area, you get literally everything you need to get this up and running, from the charger to the LiPo battery to the batteries for the radio system. Everything you need is in the box. You don't have to buy anything else. $130 in today's market is really cheap. It might be expensive if you're new to the hobby and you have to save a while to get it, but what you get for it with the batteries and all that stuff definitely makes it worth it. So for value, we're going to give this one 10 out of 10 for value, because you really do get your money's worth with this one. And question 4, what's the total points here at the channel for the Mojave Grom? We're going to give this one 27 out of 30 in the entry level, and that is outstanding. It really is. We haven't had too many of them reach that high. The Typhon went higher, and I believe it went higher by 1 point, but it handled the rough terrain better than this did. So for this one, the Mojave Grom, 27 out of 30. So there you go. That's the review for the Mojave Grom, and I'm glad we have this one. It's really cool. Part of it is I'm glad we have it because it completes our set of these, from the Grom all the way up to the EXB6S. And they are really cool cars. They are definitely one of our favorites here, and this one's a nice one to add to it. If we were newer to the hobby, it might have a better place in our standings. It did rate high in entry level, but you guys know we like the bigger cars here. When you get out in nature, you need the big cars to really handle that, and the larger they get, the more fun they usually get out in nature. But that's where we run. That doesn't dictate where you're going to run yours. If you get one and you've got a driveway or sidewalk or all of that stuff, it handles pretty good. Definitely doesn't handle that great in the grass because of the low ground clearance. With freshly mowed short grass, it may move around pretty good, but if you do run it in the grass areas, keep an eye on your temperatures, because there's a lot more resistance there. Resistance plays a big role in how the longevity of the motor holds up. This is a brush system, so the brushes and all that stuff, they do get susceptible to heat at certain temperatures, so you're going to want to keep an eye on that if you run in those conditions. But if you run it on the pavement and you run it in smooth areas, this thing rocks. It really gets with it for what it is. So if you haven't already, don't forget to bash that like button and help our content spread. You know, we love doing these kind of videos, and every now and then it brings us back to the remembrance of what it was like when we started. You know, we've had people come into the channel and hang out with us, and I had a buddy come out, and I've told this story before, but I had a buddy come out and he brought his kid with him, and we were out playing just out in the driveway having a good time. We didn't film any of this, but we were having a good time, and he brought a couple of little cars for the young one, and we were running 10 scalers, and we were playing around, and we set the ramp up. And you get used to jumping long distances with these cars, because that's just kind of how it progresses for people. They start out short and they wind up being able to jump 100 feet. And that's just how that works generally. And you get kind of jaded to that over time because you expect it. You know, people that can jump a long ways and they get used to it, when someone jumps a little shorter, they seem to dismiss it. And it happens to all of us because you get used to a certain thing. Well, what brings me back to this, and what helps with these cars, is the remembrance that this small child, and he was little, I don't even think he was 7, might be about 7 years old, and he hit the ramp with his, and he had a Traxxas Bandit, and it went up the ramp and more or less just dropped off the back and landed on its wheels. And most of us would just dismiss that as, okay, whatever. But at the same time, the excitement on his face when he turned to his dad and he says, "Dad, did you see what I did?" He made his first jump off of a full-on ramp and landed it on its wheels. And for him, that was the ultimate excitement for what he's doing in the hobby. And it's easy to forget how that works. It's easy to forget what the excitement is for new people. This channel's been geared towards new people since the very beginning. And we're glad we've been able to help the hobby. The thing is we get comments here all the time, good, bad, and sideways. Mostly good, and we do appreciate our community. You guys rock. It is outstanding. You guys get in the comments, and when people have questions, a lot of times people will get in there and answer them for them so they can help them progress in the hobby. That's what we want the comments to be for. But every once in a while, you get a comment that is off color. You get one that is just, it attacks a person, and that is not okay. We do not leave those in the comments. We don't think that's what the comments are for here. We're here to help only. So the off-color comments, we will not leave on there. Still, at the same time, we did get one that I thought was interesting, and this guy watches the channel quite a bit, and he said he has no life and no wife. Paraphrasing, but that's basically the idea, and he couldn't be wronger. I know that's not grammatically correct, but he couldn't be farther from the truth. My wife's been with me from the beginning. She's been on the channel. You guys have seen her, and she is one of the best people I've ever met in my life. And she is the better half of me. So she exists, guys. She does. She's there. And on the second thing, I've done more in my life than just this. This is a hobby. This I do literally part-time. I have a full-time job that I hold down to be able to afford to do this, because YouTube does not pay enough to do this. It doesn't. We don't accept sponsorships, not very often, and usually there's no monetary stuff in it. Maybe they'll send me a car with the understanding that I will be dead honest or I won't do it. Other than that, everything comes right out of our pocket, and both of us hold down full-time jobs to be able to do this. As far as the life goes, I'm just going to give a quick statement on that. I've spent a lot of time playing in rock bands. I've written novels. I've done all kinds of that kind of thing. I'm very accomplished in what I do, and I don't ever want that to sound like bragging. I have a life, guys. I have a life. This is just something I do to help our community. I could easily shut this down and just go on playing with my cars and be happy, but it helps me have a sense of fulfillment to be able to help the new people to the hobby. If you have anything you'd like to add to this video, please feel free to get down in the comments below and help others along the way. For AJ Jam Studios, I'm AJ saying, keep bashing.